So when I included Vinland Saga as one of the shows for this season that I was looking forward to, I happened to include reading a version of the show's synopsis that was getting passed around in promotion for the show. You know, the part that's like, here are the characters, here's what they want, and maybe that'll convince you to go watch the show. What I didn't know, because even though the manga is the closest thing we have to like getting an anime about Canada outside of like Italia, that one guy from Yuri on Ice, and the Takahata-directed Anne of Green Gables. That one anime from the 70s that I doubt many people even know exist. Even though that is the case, I still haven't read the manga enough to know that the synopsis is basically describing the show's prologue, including events that have not yet happened in the first 3 episodes. I'd claim spoilers, but you know, at the same time, Vinland Saga is based off of accounts of actual events and historical writings, so it's hard to claim spoiler foul when that info's been technically available since before any of us were alive. Therefore, I will forego repeating the synopsis and instead try to skirt around it for those of you who might be interested in the series by giving 3 main bullet points as to why I think the show is awesome and worth your time, plus 1 bigger and 1 smaller bullet point as to why they might not be. This first reaction is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. The points are as follows: the art of the slow burn and why Vinland Saga is showing to be a master of it, Makoto Yukimura, why I am a fanboy and why that shouldn't matter, Wit Studio, Viking action by the same guys responsible for Attack on Titan, and we'll save the negatives for the end. So Vinland Saga covers the events involving various Viking groups around the time of 1030 AD, which is ever so slightly after most mandatory history courses touch on the Vikings. If they do at all. Chances are, if you know anything about Vikings, then you know about 2 of their most famous. Eric the Red, the founder of the first Norse settlement of Greenland, and his son Leif Erikson, the first European-born human to set foot in North America, specifically Canada. Vinland Saga doesn't follow these great tales, and instead wants to start its historical epic a tiny bit afterwards. Leif Erikson has since returned from the newly discovered Vinland and is living in Iceland with this dude, Thors, but more specifically, his kid, Thorfinn. Thors was a former Viking soldier who abandoned his post in the military after deciding that, you know, living and taking care of his family was far more important than whatever war the Viking lords were waging. And Thorfinn is the ever-naive little boy who basically carries around a giant neon sign that says bad things are going to happen to this kid as he learns the way of the world. In the first 3 episodes, the show establishes Thors' character and backstory, both showing his dedication to his family and to life in general, while at the same time setting the stage for one important thing that Vinland Saga will teach you, if nothing else. Don't screw with the Vikings! Now, with that being said, what does Vinland Saga being a slow burn have to do with anything? Well, a slow burn of a show is one that takes its time to flesh out all of the little details that other shows don't, usually due to the lack of time. This could potentially bite the show in the arse depending on how many episodes it inevitably gets, but there is enough material for this series to go on for a while. There is at present 161 chapters of the manga at the moment, and while they seem to be going a little bit faster than a chapter an episode, a 52 episode series is not unreasonable, even if shorter seasons with gaps, a la the Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia release schedule, is far more likely. We are spending all of this time on Thors and his relationship with his son because this is all backstory. And we will soon be skipping ahead a bit to an older Thorfinn and how he views and lives in this whole different world, how the stories of Vinland told to him by Leif affected his dreams, and how his father became the backbone of his whole development. It's a slow burn because they are taking their time while not sacrificing interesting storytelling or character development. Makoto Yukimura was the author of the original manga, and if you don't know his work, if his name doesn't ring a bell, then I highly encourage you to check out the hard sci-fi anime awesomeness that is Planetes at your earliest convenience. I am putting emphasis on that. Seriously. But Yukimura is very good at character drama and melding the setting and key elements around, bringing out the best in his characters. Now, in this case, he can't really meld everything about our setting to suit purpose like he could with like an original story, especially if he is trying to keep fairly accurate to historical events of the time. But with a little creative license, there is enough there to make a compelling tale, and that's what exactly I expect him to do. Not only that, but this show could probably make a good addition to that list of shows I made a number of weeks back of anime that would be good to watch if you enjoyed Game of Thrones. While any political intrigue isn't present in the story as of yet, the violent action of the series makes it a worthy candidate. Though that would make 2 shows by Wit Studio that appear on that list. Segue into my final positive point. After finishing up with the 3rd season of Attack on Titan, Wit Studio has taken this on, and with a few scene exceptions that I could point to, but I'm not, have continued their high bar for action and animation, which makes me quite glad that they are the ones handling Vinland Saga. The opening fight scene of episode 1 is the easiest example of this. Wit has made it a habit with their action shows to begin everything with a powerful first impression. This was the case with Titan, this was the case with Cabaneri, and now with Vinland. The camera pans through this naval battle that showcases Thor's combat prowess and what we can expect from the battles that occur at sea, even with the limitations therein. But even in the non-action scenes, they still have good enough emphasis on particular violent acts to further inform us of the not-so-idyllic nature of this moment in history. So, barring any cuts that they probably do to the show's budget to make the series a bit more long-form, I fully expect the same level of quality that Wit has showed us they are capable of. Which leads to the only negatives. The first being that this story and its adaptation is a big commitment, and we don't know how far they plan to take it. Again, not only is there 161 manga chapters at present, but the manga is still ongoing, and it's reasonable to assume that this anime will either catch up or stop short at some point, which isn't ideal. And I will admit that I dislike the idea of highly recommending the series only for it to end on an unsatisfying note in a season or 2. But it is a risk that we have to be willing to take, and I feel like what we will get should be satisfying enough. The minor negative, of course, is in regards to availability. I have many problems with the Amazon streaming service that I have outlined in the past, and how that puts a bit of a damper on my excitement for the show. Hell, it took me quite a while just to even get the show up and running on stream for me, because I kept getting an error that said that it wasn't available in my country, even though I'm up here in Canada, and they are offering the show to us northerners. Like, I'd be really annoyed if they weren't, considering the subject matter. But that's a minor point, because it's not related to the show itself, merely the current avenue available to watch it. And with luck, we will eventually see some kind of deal struck with other companies to provide other ways to watch it down the line, because many Amazon anime exclusives have eventually managed to migrate their way over to, like, High Dive, for example. But for the moment, that's not a thing. In the end, Vinland Saga might be a series that you might want to sleep on, but only for a few weeks, just to catch up with it later. As good as I am finding it, I realize my own biases considering its subject matter, and my excitement might not transfer to others, but I'll be damned if this is not a show that we will be discussing further down the line, assuming it stays in production for longer than 1 season. But of course, this is just my first reaction to the series. It's very possible that it'll turn out quite a bit different from what we are expecting. So thank you for joining me in this quick discussion. There will be streaming links down in the description, should you require them. And let me know down in the comments what you have been following this season, and hopefully we will talk about it in a future video. A big thank you to all of my patrons who make these videos possible. I love you guys so much. And until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime and stay frosty.